Lee Min-jun stared at his monitor screen in the quiet control room of the space station Times Harmony's Edge *. The night shift was always peaceful. Most of the alien crew members were sleeping, and the galaxy seemed calm. Lee liked these quiet hours when he could focus on the radio signals that came from deep space. He was checking the communication channels when something strange appeared on his screen. A weak signal was coming from a distant star system. Lee frowned and leaned closer to his monitor. The signal was very faint, almost hidden in the background noise of space. Lee adjusted his equipment to get a better look at the signal. It was not like the normal radio waves that traveled between planets and spaceships. This signal used an old frequency that most modern equipment ignored. Lee had seen signals like this before in his training. It was an emergency call for help. "That's impossible," Lee whispered to himself. He checked the location where the signal came from. His computer showed that it came from the Kepler sector, from a star system that the Galactic Council had marked as dead space. According to all official records, no life could exist in that area. Lee tried to clean up the signal to hear it better. As he worked, he started to hear something that made his heart beat faster. Behind the static and noise, he could hear what sounded like voices. Some of them seemed to be children, and they sounded scared and sad. The young human officer saved the signal and walked quickly to his supervisor's office. Commander Zethkar was an Altarian, with blue skin and 4 arms. He was reading reports on his computer when Lee knocked on his door. "Commander, I need to show you something important," Lee said as he entered the office. Zethkar looked up with his large, dark eyes. "What is it, Lee? Is there a problem with the communication systems?" Lee sat down and played the signal on his portable device. "I found this distress call coming from the Kepler sector. It's using an old emergency frequency, but I can hear voices. I think someone needs help." The Altarian commander listened to the signal for a few seconds, then waved one of his hands in dismissal. "Lee, that sector has been surveyed 3 times by our best exploration teams. There is no intelligent life there. The planets are too dangerous for any species to survive. You are probably hearing space interference or signals bouncing from other systems. But Commander, I cleaned up the signal. These are real voices, and they're using the universal distress code. Someone is calling for help." Zethkar's expression became stern. "Lee, I understand you want to help, but we cannot waste resources chasing ghost signals from dead space. The Galactic Council has clear rules about this. If life existed in that sector, we would know about it." Lee felt frustrated, but he didn't give up. What if the Council made a mistake? What if there are people out there who need our help? "The Council does not make mistakes about such important matters," Zethkar replied firmly. "Focus on your regular duties. There are real emergencies that need our attention." Lee left the commander's office feeling disappointed. He went back to his station and played the signal again. The more he listened, the more certain he became that real people were calling for help. He could hear the fear and sadness in their voices. Dr. Sarah Chen, a human scientist who worked on the station, stopped by Lee's desk. She was his closest friend among the crew, and she often visited him during the night shift. "You look worried, Lee. Is everything okay?" Sarah asked as she sat down next to him. Lee showed her the signal and explained what had happened with Commander Zethkar. Sarah listened carefully and studied the data on Lee's screen. "This does look like a real distress call," Sarah said thoughtfully. "But Lee, you have to understand why the commander dismissed it. That star system is extremely dangerous. The gravity is unstable. There are radiation storms, and the main star is very old and unpredictable. No known species has technology that could survive in such conditions. But what if there's a species we don't know about? What if they evolved in those harsh conditions, and now they need help?" Sarah was quiet for a moment. "Lee, even if there are people there, how could we help them? Our ships cannot survive in that environment. The radiation alone would kill most galactic species. Lee thought about what Sarah had said. It was true that the Altarians, the Zenthians, and most other galactic species came from peaceful worlds with stable climates. Their technology was designed for normal space conditions, not extreme environments. But humans were different. Earth was known throughout the galaxy as a death world because of its harsh weather, dangerous animals, and unstable climate. Other species thought humans were crazy for coming from such a difficult planet. Maybe that craziness could help now. Over the next few days, Lee continued to monitor the signal during his shifts. He noticed that it was getting weaker, which worried him. If people were really calling for help, their situation was getting worse. Lee tried to talk to other crew members about the signal, but they all gave him the same response. The Zenthian engineers said their ships could never survive the radiation in that sector. The Vrexian medical officers said no species could evolve in such dangerous conditions. Everyone agreed that Lee was wasting his time. But Lee couldn't forget the voices he had heard in the signal, especially the children who sounded so scared and sad. He began to research the Kepler sector in his free time, reading old exploration reports and scientific studies. What he found made him even more determined to help. The reports showed that 3 different Galactic Council survey ships had tried to explore the sector over the past 50 years. All 3 ships had been destroyed by the extreme conditions. After the 3rd failure, the Council had officially declared the sector uninhabitable and forbidden any further exploration. Lee realized that if people were really living in that dangerous system, they had been calling for help for 50 years while the galaxy ignored them. The thought made him angry and sad at the same time. Late one night, Lee made a decision that would change everything. He sent a private message to the human colonial fleet, requesting an emergency meeting with any captain who might be willing to listen to his story. He knew he was breaking regulations. But Lee could not ignore the voices calling for help from the darkness of space. Someone had to care about the forgotten people in the dangerous star system, even if the rest of the galaxy had given up on them. Captain Park Soo-jin stood in the bridge of the human ship Times, Endurance Times, and read Lee Min-jun's message for the 3rd time. The young communications officer had sent detailed information about the distress signal from the Kepler sector, along with his analysis of why the Galactic Council had ignored it. Park was a veteran of the human colonial fleet. She had spent 20 years exploring dangerous parts of space that other species avoided. The Times, Endurance Times, was designed for rescue missions in hostile environments, equipped with the strongest shields and armor that human technology could provide. "Chief Kim, come look at this," Park called to her engineering officer. Kim Tae-hyun walked over and read the message on the captain's screen. He was one of the best engineers in the human fleet, known for solving impossible technical problems. "This kid thinks there are people living in the Kepler sector?" Kim asked. "That place is a nightmare. The gravity fluctuates every few hours, and the radiation levels would cook most species in minutes. But not us," Park said quietly. "Kim, our ships are built to handle Earth storms and solar radiation. What if this young man is right? What if there really are people out there who need help?" Kim studied the technical data that Lee had included with his message. "The radiation readings are high, but not higher than what we deal with near Jupiter's moons. The gravity wells are tricky, but our navigation system can handle them. Captain, we could actually survive a trip to that sector." Park made her decision quickly. She had joined the colonial fleet to help people, not to follow bureaucratic rules that left innocents to die. "Set course for the Kepler sector," she ordered, "and send a message to Lee Min-jun. Tell him we're coming." The Times, Endurance Times, changed direction and headed toward the dangerous star system. Park knew she was disobeying direct orders from the Galactic Council, but she didn't care. If people were dying while the galaxy ignored them, she would not stand by and do nothing. As they traveled through space, Park's crew prepared for the worst. Dr. Yang Mi-young, the ship's doctor, studied everything she could find about alien biology. If they found survivors, she would need to know how to help them. Lieutenant Han Dong-woo, the tactical officer, ran simulations of the dangerous conditions they might face. The computer models showed that most galactic ships would be destroyed within hours of entering the sector. But the Endurance Times, had a good chance of survival. "Captain, we're approaching the edge of the Kepler sector," reported navigator Kim Young-soo from his station. Park looked at the main screen and saw something that made her understand why other ships had failed. The space around the star system was filled with twisted metal and debris from destroyed vessels. The remains of Galactic Council survey ships floated like metal graveyards in the dangerous radiation fields. "There must be a dozen wrecked ships out here," Kim Tae-hyun said as he scanned the debris. "Look at this damage. These ships were literally torn apart by gravitational stress." "And that's just what happened in the outer system," Park replied. "The planet itself must be even more dangerous." The Endurance Times moved carefully through the debris field. The human ship's strong hull and flexible design allowed it to survive the gravitational pulls that had destroyed the alien vessels. The crew watched their instruments carefully as they approached the source of the distress signal. "Captain, I'm detecting a planet in the inner system," reported Young-soo. "It's unusual." The main screen showed a world that defied everything the galaxy thought it knew about planets that could support life. The planet's surface was covered with crystal formations that glowed with their own light. Strange storms of energy moved across the surface, and the gravity readings changed constantly. "How could anything live there?" asked Dr. Yang. "The environmental conditions are completely unstable." Kim studied his engineering displays and shook his head in amazement. "Captain, this planet is like a more extreme version of Earth. The weather is violent, the gravity shifts constantly, and the radiation levels are through the roof. But somehow, it's all stable in a chaotic way. Like Earth's weather patterns," Park realized. "Dangerous and unpredictable, but following natural rules that life can adapt to." As they got closer to the planet, the crew began to understand why the Galactic Council had declared it impossible to explore. The other species in the galaxy came from peaceful worlds with gentle weather and stable conditions. Their technology was designed for normal environments, not for the extreme chaos of worlds like Earth or this crystal planet. But humans were different. They had evolved on a world that other species called a death world, because of its violent weather, dangerous earthquakes, and deadly storms. Human technology was built to survive in harsh conditions because Earth had taught them that the universe was not a safe or gentle place. "We're receiving a stronger signal from the planet's surface," reported Communications Officer Lee Jae-sung. "It's definitely the same distress call that Lee Min-jun detected." Park listened to the signal and heard the same voices that had convinced Lee to ask for help. There were adults, speaking in an unknown language. But she could also hear children crying. The universal distress code was repeated over and over, a mathematical pattern that meant, "Help us," in every language known to the galaxy. "They've been calling for 50 years, Park said softly. 50 years of asking for help while the galaxy ignored them." The captain made her final decision. "Take us into the planet's atmosphere. We're going to land and find these people." "Captain, the Galactic Council will court-martial you for this," warned Han Dong-woo. Park looked at her crew with determination in her eyes. "Let them try. I didn't join the fleet to follow rules that let innocent people die. We're humans from Earth, the so-called Deathworlders. If anyone can survive down there and help those people, it's us." The Endurance Times entered the planet's chaotic atmosphere. The ship shook and rolled as it fought through energy storms and gravitational anomalies. But the human vessel held together, its Earth-tested design proving stronger than the alien technology that had failed before. As they descended toward the surface, Park's crew saw something that filled them with both wonder and sadness. The crystal formations on the planet were not natural geological features. They were cities, built by an intelligent species that had learned to survive in conditions that would kill most galactic races. And from those crystal cities, the distress signals continued to broadcast into the uncaring void of space, calling for help that only the Deathworlders had been brave enough to answer. The landing party from the Time's Endurance Times walked carefully through the crystal forest toward the source of the distress signal. Captain Park led the team, wearing a protective suit designed for Earth's most dangerous environments. The planet's surface was unlike anything they had ever seen. Tall crystal trees reached toward the chaotic sky, their surfaces glowing with soft blue and green light. The ground beneath their feet was made of the same crystal material, smooth but not slippery. Strange energy patterns moved through the crystal formations like slow lightning. The radiation levels are high, but manageable, reported Dr. Yang Mi-young as she checked her instruments. Our suits are handling it fine. Chief Engineer Kim Tae-hyun studied the crystal formations with fascination. These aren't natural crystals, Captain. Someone built these structures. The engineering is incredible. As they walked deeper into the crystal forest, they began to see signs of intelligent life. The crystal formations were arranged in patterns that looked like streets and buildings. Some of the larger crystals had openings that might be doorways or windows. There, said Lieutenant Han Dong-woo, pointing ahead. I see movement. The team stopped and watched as figures emerged from the crystal structures. The beings were unlike any species in the galactic database. They were tall and thin, with bodies that seemed to be made partly of crystal and partly of something that looked like living glass. They moved gracefully, their crystal limbs catching and reflecting light as they approached. One of the beings stepped forward and spoke in a voice that sounded like wind chimes. The universal translator in Park's suit worked to convert the alien language into words she could understand. Are you real? The being asked. We have called for help for so long. We thought no one would ever come. Park removed her helmet carefully, breathing the planet's atmosphere through her suit's filters. We are real. We are humans from Earth. And we came because we heard your distress call. The crystal being's form seemed to brighten with excitement. Humans? We have heard of your species. You come from the world that others call impossible to survive. You are the Deathworlders. That's right, Park replied. We received your signal at our monitoring station. A young man named Lee Min-jun refused to ignore your call for help. More crystal beings emerged from their structures. Park could see that many of them looked sick or weak. Some of the smaller ones, who were probably children, were carried by the adults. Their crystal bodies had dark spots that looked like some kind of disease. I am Elder Nithara, the first being said. I speak for the Kytheron people. We have been dying slowly for many years. Our children grow sick, and we do not know how to heal them. Dr. Yang stepped forward with her medical scanner. May I examine one of your people? I am a doctor. Maybe I can help. Elder Nithara gestured to a young Kytheran whose crystal body was covered with dark patches. The child looked weak and tired, but still curious about the strange visitors from space. Dr. Yang scanned the child carefully with her medical equipment. What she found made her frown with concern. Captain, this is unlike any disease I've ever seen. Their bodies are silicon-based, not carbon-based like most galactic species. The infection seems to be attacking their crystal structure itself. How long has this sickness affected your people? Park asked Elder Nithara. It began about 50 of your years ago, the elder replied sadly. At first, only a few children became ill. But the sickness has spread slowly through our population. We have lost thousands of our people, and we do not know how to stop it. Kim studied his scanner readings and shook his head. Captain, this explains why the Galactic Council surveys failed. No other known species has silicon-based biology. The Council's medical databases would have no information about diseases that affect crystal life forms. Park felt anger building in her chest. The galaxy had ignored these people for 50 years, not just because their world was dangerous, but because they were different from all other known life. The Catharans had evolved in extreme conditions that made their biology unique, and when they became sick, no one in the galaxy could help them. Elder Nithara, how many of your people are still alive? Park asked. Perhaps 10,000 remain, the elder replied. Once, we numbered in the millions. Our cities covered this entire continent. Now, most of our crystal gardens are empty and dark. The human team followed Elder Nithara deeper into the Catharan settlement. What they saw broke their hearts. Entire crystal buildings stood empty, their lights dim and fading. In the areas where Catharans still lived, sick children lay in crystal beds while their parents watched helplessly. We tried everything, Elder Nithara explained as they walked. Our best healers worked for decades to find a cure. We called to the galaxy for help, broadcasting on every frequency we could access. But no one came. Survey ships tried to reach you, Park told the elder. But they were destroyed by your planet's conditions before they could land. We saw their ships fall from the sky, Nithara replied sadly. We knew they were trying to help, but their technology could not survive our world's embrace. We thought we were truly alone. Dr. Yang continued to examine sick Catharans as they toured the settlement. The more she learned about the disease, the more worried she became. Captain, this infection is spreading faster now. I think the stress of their declining population is making it worse. Can you treat it? Park asked. Not with conventional galactic medicine, Dr. Yang replied. Their biology is too different. But, she paused and looked thoughtful. Captain, what if the answer isn't in galactic medicine? What if we need to think like humans from a death world? Kim understood what she meant. Earth biology. Our planet has silicon processing bacteria in volcanic regions. Maybe our world's harsh conditions created life forms that could help them. Elder Nithara had been listening to their conversation through the universal translator. You believe your death world might hold the key to saving our people? It's possible, Park said. Earth's extreme conditions created many unique life forms. If any planet would have the tools to help you, it would be ours. Hope began to shine in Elder Nithara's crystal form. We have waited 50 years for someone who could help us. If the Deathworlders can save our children, we will be forever grateful. Park looked around at the dying crystal city and made a promise that would challenge everything the galaxy thought it knew about impossible rescues. Elder Nithara, we will not abandon you. Earth's children do not leave others to die alone in the darkness. We will find a way to help your people, even if the rest of the galaxy has given up on you. The crystal being's form glowed brighter than Park had seen yet. Then perhaps our 50 years of calling into the void were not in vain. Perhaps the universe sent us exactly the help we needed, from the one world that could understand our struggle to survive. Dr. Yang worked frantically in the Times Endurance Times medical bay, studying samples of the Catharan infection under her microscope. She had been working for 3 days straight, trying to find a way to help the dying crystal people. The ship's computers had analyzed every known medicine in the galactic database, but nothing worked against the silicon-based disease. Any progress? Captain Park asked as she entered the medical bay. I've tried everything, Dr. Yang replied, rubbing her tired eyes. This infection attacks the crystalline matrix that makes up their bodies. It's like a virus that specifically targets silicon-based life. No carbon-based medicine can touch it. Chief Engineer Kim entered the room, carrying a data pad full of information. Doctor, I've been researching Earth's volcanic regions, like you suggested. Look at this. Kim showed them data about bacteria that lived in Earth's most extreme environments. These microorganisms process silicon compounds in volcanic vents. They've evolved to break down and rebuild silicon structures as part of their natural life cycle. Dr. Yang studied the information with growing excitement. Kim, this could work. If I can modify these bacteria to target the infection instead of healthy crystal tissue. You want to fight an alien disease with Earth bacteria? Park asked. It's the only chance we have, Dr. Yang replied. The Keitharan's biology is so unique that only Earth's extreme life forms might be compatible with their systems. While Dr. Yang worked on developing the treatment, the crew faced a new problem. Long-range communications had detected Galactic Council ships approaching the Kepler sector. The Council had learned about the unauthorized human rescue mission and was sending forces to stop it. "Captain, we have incoming messages from the Council fleet," reported Communications Officer Lee Jae-sung. "They're ordering us to withdraw immediately." Park read the official Council message on her screen. The document was full of legal language and bureaucratic threats. The Council accused her of violating exploration protocols and interfering with officially extinct civilizations. "They want us to abandon these people?" Park asked angrily. "The Keitharans are dying, and the Council wants us to leave them here?" Lieutenant Han studied the tactical display showing the approaching Council ships. "Captain, we have 6 Altarian cruisers and 3 Zenthian science vessels heading our way. They'll be here in 12 hours. Their ships can't survive in this system," Kim pointed out. "They'll have to stay in the outer regions and demand that we come to them." Park made her decision quickly. "We're not leaving until Dr. Yang finishes her work. These people have waited 50 years for help. They can wait a few more hours for the galaxy's bureaucrats." Meanwhile, Elder Nithara visited the Time's endurance times to check on the humans' progress. The Keitharan leader had never been inside a spacecraft before, and the ship's design fascinated the crystal being. "Your vessel is built like your people," Nithara observed. "Strong and adaptable. It bends without breaking. Earth taught us to build things that last," Park replied. "Our world doesn't give second chances to weak designs. That is why you succeeded where others failed," Nithara said. "The galaxy's peaceful species build for comfort and efficiency. You build for survival." Dr. Yang called everyone to the medical bay to announce her breakthrough. "I've successfully modified Earth bacteria to target the Keitharan infection. The treatment works by introducing beneficial microorganisms that consume the diseased crystal matter while leaving healthy tissue alone." "Have you tested it?" Park asked. "On tissue samples, yes, but I need to test it on a living patient to be sure it's safe." Elder Nithara stepped forward without hesitation. "Test it on me. I am old, and if the treatment fails, my people will not lose much. But if it succeeds, you can save thousands of lives." Dr. Yang prepared the bacterial treatment and administered it to Elder Nithara through a specially designed injection system. The crystal being's body glowed softly as the Earth bacteria began to work on the infected areas. Within an hour, the dark patches on Nithara's crystal form began to fade. The diseased tissue was being consumed and replaced with healthy crystal growth. The Elder's movements became stronger, and the glow of their body grew brighter. "It works," Dr. Yang said with amazement. "The Earth bacteria are actually healing the crystal damage." Elder Nithara examined their restored body with wonder. 50 years of sickness, gone in 1 hour. The Deathworld's children have given us back our lives. But their celebration was interrupted by an urgent message from the Galactic Council fleet. Admiral Korthvan of the Altarian Navy appeared on the main screen, his blue face stern with authority. "Captain Park, you are in violation of Galactic Council Resolution 447B regarding interference with extinct civilizations. You will withdraw from the Kepler sector immediately and report for disciplinary action." Park stood tall and faced the alien admiral. "Admiral, these people are not extinct. They are very much alive, and they need our help to survive a plague that has killed thousands of them. The Kepler sector has been officially designated as uninhabitable," the admiral replied coldly. "No intelligent life can exist in such extreme conditions. You are clearly suffering from space madness brought on by exposure to the system's radiation." "Space madness?" Park repeated angrily. "Admiral, I have a Keitharan elder standing right here in my medical bay. Would you like to speak with them?" The admiral's expression showed disbelief as Elder Nithara moved into view of the communication screen. The crystal being's form sparkled in the ship's lights, clearly alive and intelligent. "Greetings, Admiral," Nithara said through the universal translator. "I am Elder Nithara of the Kitharan people. We have been calling for help for 50 years. Only the humans answered our plea." Admiral Korthvan stared at the screen in shock. "This is impossible. Our surveys confirmed that no life could survive in that system." "Your surveys were wrong," Park said firmly. "Your people build for peaceful environments. You never considered that life might evolve to thrive in extreme conditions." The Admiral was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he spoke again. "Even if these beings exist, Captain, they cannot be evacuated. Their world is too dangerous for our ships to approach." "Then it's a good thing we're here," Park replied. Elder Nithara looked directly at the Admiral through the screen. "Admiral, your people and others have ignored our calls because our world is too harsh for you. But the humans came because their world taught them to survive in harsh places. They are saving my people with medicine made from their planet's extreme life forms." As if to prove the point, Dr. Yang appeared on screen with a young Kitharan child who had just been treated with the Earth bacteria cure. The child's crystal form glowed with health, completely free of the dark infection that had been killing the Kitharan population. Park faced the Admiral with determination. "Admiral, we're going to evacuate every Kitharan who wants to leave this dying world. Our ships can do what yours cannot. The question is, will the Galactic Council help us save these people, or will you stand in the way of the greatest rescue mission in galactic history?" The evacuation of Kithara Prime began as soon as Dr. Yang produced enough bacterial treatment to cure the entire Kitharan population. Chief Engineer Kim worked around the clock to modify the Time's Endurance Time's cargo holds, creating special crystal gardens where the silicon-based aliens could survive during the long journey to safety. "We need to maintain specific pressure and mineral content in each hold," Kim explained to his engineering team. "The Kytharans absorb nutrients directly from their environment through their crystal skin." Captain Park coordinated with Elder Nithara to organize the evacuation. Nearly 10,000 Kitharans needed to be moved from their dying world, and the Time's endurance times could only carry about 2,000 at a time. "Captain, our stellar analysis shows the system's sun is becoming more unstable," reported Navigator Kim Young-soo. "We estimate 12 hours before it goes nova." 12 hours to save 10,000 people, Park said grimly. "We'll need to make 5 trips at maximum capacity." The Galactic Council fleet remained in the outer system, unable to approach due to the extreme conditions. Admiral Korthvan sent increasingly urgent messages, demanding that the humans abandon their rescue mission. "Captain Park, you are risking not only your crew, but also creating a diplomatic crisis," the Admiral's latest message stated. "The Council cannot be responsible for beings that should not exist." Park ignored the Admiral's messages and focused on the evacuation. The first group of Kitharan refugees boarded the Time's Endurance Times with wonder in their crystal eyes. Most had never seen the inside of a spacecraft, and they marveled at human technology designed to survive in harsh conditions. "Your ship feels like a crystal cave," one young Kitharan told Dr. Yang as she treated them with the Earth bacteria cure. "Strong and protective, but also warm and alive." "That's because humans build with heart," Dr. Yang replied. "We know what it's like to fight for survival every day." 1. The first evacuation trip went smoothly. The Time's Endurance Times transported 2,000 Kitharans to a safe world in a nearby system, where the Galactic Council had reluctantly agreed to establish a temporary refugee camp. The crystal beings were amazed to see other species for the first time in their history. But as they prepared for the second trip, long-range sensors detected a terrifying change in Kithara Prime's sun. The stellar collapse was accelerating. "Captain, we now estimate 6 hours before the nova," Young-soo reported. "We can make 2 more trips at most." Park did quick calculations in her head. 3 trips would save 6,000 Keitharans, but 4,000 would be left behind to die in the stellar explosion. The choice was impossible. Elder Nithara, who had chosen to stay until the last evacuation, approached Park with a proposal. "Captain, our people have discussed this among ourselves. We want you to take the children and young adults first. Those of us who are old have lived full lives." "No," Park said firmly. "We don't choose who lives and dies. We find a way to save everyone." Kim overheard the conversation and joined them. "Captain, what if we overload the cargo systems? We could fit more people if we reduce life support margins." "That's too dangerous," Dr. Yang protested. "The Keitharans need specific environmental conditions to survive. But they're tougher than we thought," Kim pointed out. "They evolved on this impossible world. Maybe they can handle some discomfort better than most species." Elder Nithara's crystal form glowed with determination. "We have survived 50 years of plague and the harshest conditions in the galaxy. We can endure cramped conditions for a few hours if it means saving more lives." Park made the dangerous decision to overload the ship's capacity. The second trip carried 3,000 Keitharans in conditions that would have been impossible for most galactic species. But the crystal beings endured the uncomfortable journey with grace, grateful simply to be alive. As they prepared for the third and final trip, the star's collapse reached critical levels. Energy storms lashed across Keithara Prime's surface, and the planet's crystal formations began to crack under increasing gravitational stress. 5,000 Keitharans left, and maybe 3 hours until Nova, Park announced to her crew. "This is going to be close." The final evacuation was chaotic but successful. The endurance times lifted off from Keithara Prime, with every available space filled with crystal refugees. The cargo holds, medical bay, corridors, and even the bridge were packed with Keitharans, who pressed themselves into whatever space they could find. "Ship's at 200% capacity, Captain," Kim reported. "We're pushing every system past red line. Hold together, old girl," Park whispered to her ship. "One more trip, and we can rest." As the endurance times cleared the planet's atmosphere, Keithara Prime's sun reached the final stage of stellar collapse. The crew and refugees watched through the viewports as the star that had warmed the Keitharan homeworld for millions of years began its violent death. "Nova in 30 minutes, Youngsu announced. They made it to safe distance, with only minutes to spare. The stellar explosion lit up the entire system with brilliant light, completely destroying Keithara Prime and everything that remained. But on the endurance times and at the refugee settlement, 10,000 Keitharans had survived to see a new future. The rescue created shockwaves throughout the galaxy. News of the impossible evacuation spread to every world in the Galactic Council. The humans had achieved what every other species declared impossible, saving an entire civilization from certain death. In the weeks that followed, the Keitharans proved to be remarkable allies. Their crystal technology, when combined with human engineering, produced advances in science that amazed galactic researchers. They shared gravitational manipulation techniques that revolutionized space travel, and their medical knowledge helped develop treatments for diseases affecting other silicon-based life forms. "The galaxy dismissed us as extinct," Elder Nithara said during the formal alliance ceremony between humans and Keitharans. "But the Deathworlders heard our voices in the darkness and refused to let us die alone." Admiral Korthvan attended the ceremony, representing the Galactic Council's grudging admission that their protocols needed to change. "This rescue has taught us that our definition of impossible may be too narrow," the Admiral said. "We are establishing new guidelines for investigating extreme environments." Captain Park received the highest honors that both humanity and the galaxy could bestow, but she remained modest about the achievement. "We just did what any decent people would do," she told reporters. "We heard someone calling for help, and we answered." Lee Min-jun, the young communications officer who had first detected the Keitharan distress signal, was promoted to head of the Galactic Council's new Extreme Communications Division. His job was to listen for signals from impossible places that others might ignore. Dr. Yang's bacterial treatment became the foundation for an entirely new field of xenomedicine, helping the galaxy understand and treat diseases affecting non-carbon-based life forms. But perhaps the most important change was in how the galaxy viewed the humans from Earth. No longer were they seen as primitive beings from a harsh world. They were recognized as the galaxy's specialists in surviving and rescuing others from impossible situations. The Kitharans settled on a new world, with environmental conditions that challenged most galactic species, but felt comfortable to their crystal biology. They built new cities that glowed with their own light, and they never forgot the debt they owed to the Deathworlders, who had refused to let them die forgotten in the darkness. And throughout the galaxy, a new saying spread among the species. When the impossible becomes necessary, call the humans. Elder Nithara said it best during the dedication of the memorial to their lost homeworld. The galaxy taught us that we were alone, that no one could survive in our harsh world or help us in our time of need. But the humans taught us that sometimes, the ones others call impossible are exactly the ones who can achieve the truly impossible. Lot of the 22-4.